Hello and welcome to From the BON, the Burnley podcast. I'm Simon Evans, and with me here today is Chris Bowden, and we have a very special guest with us joining the show, the Padiham Predator, a true Clarets legend, 81 goals in 175 appearances for his boyhood club. And what a story it is, the story of Andy Payton. Some of you will be familiar with it. Some of our younger viewers perhaps didn't experience those years of Andy putting the ball in the back of the net at Turf Moor. But he had a great career, of course, that took him to clubs like Celtic and Middlesbrough and other clubs in English football as well. We're going to go through it all with Andy. Andy, welcome to From the BON.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. I'm looking forward to it, Simon and Chris. Yeah, be good.
So let's just start off at the start, because this is a famous part of your career is that you were not taken on by Burnley when you were a young player. You could say rejected by your local club, and that's happened to plenty of footballers over the years from the area. Most of us grow up dreaming of one day playing for Burnley. A few get a chance, a sniff of a trial, and so on. You had your foot in the door, and then it didn't work out for you there. Tell us a little bit about how that happened and what went on at that time.
Yeah, I looking back now, I think it was. You always think that it was fate, or whatever. But I obviously went to school locally. I went to Padiham St John's, then went to Gawthorpe, and I ended up signing for Burnley when I was 14. Because back in the day, there were no academies as such. You couldn't sign for a club till you were 14 years old. So I signed for Burnley at 14, and then obviously when I left school at 16, it was also. Well, I was hoping to get, an apprenticeship. Back in the day, they had the YTS scheme where the government paid for it. So it was £25 a week. Right. And Burnley took 10 on and I got released, which was, I'll be honest with you, I was quite devastated at the time because I was a lifelong Burnley fan and, from Padiham. But what I did, I wrote to a load of clubs because there were no internet then. And I got one reply from Hull City, and I went over for a trial. And I went over and did stay for a week, and they offered me a 1-year YTS. So I ended up leaving home at 16 and going over to Hull City, who were in the Championship. So I think they were in the Championship at the time. They got promotion anyway when I got there. So I left home and went to Hull at 16, having been rejected by Burnley. But I think it toughens you up, to get rejection at that age, football's not all about, winning. You've got to take the losses as well, haven't you?
Yeah, just going back to that when it happened, because I'm trying to remember. It's sometimes difficult to remember which managers were in charge of which players. Yeah. Sometimes when you look back, we had Michael Duff on the other week, and he played under 5 different Burnley managers. Yeah. Was that John Bond in charge at that time then when you were released?
Well, it was, but Arthur Bellamy, God rest his soul, but Arthur, who was groundsman when I signed for Burnley, at that time he was U-team coach, and It was Arthur that made the decision. And I spoke to him about it when I came back to Burnley, and he said I was very small, and I think they just thought I weren't going to be big enough or whatever. They judged players on that back in the day a little bit.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
But I think it really, really helped me as a footballer, because when I went to Hull, Brian Orton, who ended up being manager of Man City, and he just got the job as player manager, and he was well known with Brian in his playing career, being a hard man, And I remember going into the club on the first day, and they had first year and second year apprentices, YTS lads, all sat in a room. There were 18 of us, and he walked in, first time we'd ever seen him. He said, have a look around. He said, there's 18 in here. He said, I'm keeping 4 at end of season, and just walked out. So he just created that atmosphere, of dog eat dog. You got to be the best or whatever. And I think it did me a world of good, It was really hard. It was tough because I was only a kid. I was only 16. But, I really enjoyed my time at Hull, And, they did, just nothing but good things to say about Hull City,
How soon was it when you ended up going to New Zealand, didn't you, for a loan spell as such? It's not even on your Wikipedia page, is it? It was.
No, I mean, they'd done it with a player. They'd done it, what it were, a guy from Hull had emigrated to New Zealand and set up a football team over there. And he got back in touch with the club. And a lad called Nicky Brown went the year before me. And when he got back, he broke into the first team. So I was 18. So I just signed, I'd got through the apprenticeship and signed my first professional contract at 18. And that summer, I thought I was coming home, for a rest. I'm saying rest, you're only 18, but Brian Horton got me and he said, right, you're going to New Zealand to this club. Anyway, I went out there for 3 months and really enjoyed it and scored a few goals, and it did me confidence a lot of good. And when I came back, I just got training with the first team, and probably about 4 months after that, I made my debut in the first team at 19. So I think it really helped me, in the Championship. And that was against Leeds United at home, 20,000 on. So all them 200 crowds, like footballers now today, under 23s, under 21s, playing in front of 200 people and all that. I mean, like, if you weren't at first team at 19 in my day, you were gone. And that is a 100% fact. So luckily I scored and we won. We won 3-1. And, it got me up and running. But the New Zealand experience was, I think it really helped me. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You weren't short of competition at striking area either, were you, at Hull?
Oh no, we had loads.
Billy Whitehurst and Keith Edwards and
Keith was amazing. Yeah, Keith won the Golden Boot in the Championship. I used to watch him. I used to ask him questions. I used to bug him. Probably got fed up of me, but I wanted to learn off him because he was so good. We had a lad called Dean Windus, who obviously was an apprentice with me. And Dean went on to score over 200 goals in his career as well. And 7 lads from YTS got it first team. It was unbelievable. We had a really good group. But Keith was unbelievable. And Billy, you just did everything you were told. He was the hardest man I've ever come across in football, on and off the field. Billy would smash an apprentice in training into a wall without even thinking about it. We got absolutely. I look at footballers now today. If I dived in training, which I would never do anyway, he would probably give me a crack. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't happen. They were tough men. And one of the hardest part, I think, of breaking into the first team. As soon as you get training with the first team, especially back then, because there were small squads. I remember the centre half. He's passed away now. Called Pete Skipper. Big hard man, centre half, and he used to give me a lift into training. Anyway, this one particular day, he'd see me walking in, he'd pull over, jump in, and we had a practice match, reserves against first team. First ball that went over the top, I think he slipped, and I outpaced him and scored. And he said to me, "Run past me again, I'll break your legs." And he stopped giving me lifts. But you know what I mean? Things changed. It was hard. It was really hard for us, when I see footballers rolling around now, I can't believe it. It's just won't have lasted back in our day. Crazy.
And the screech they do every time they get tackled trying to get a foul, that drives me mad. That during
they bang
COVID,
the floor with their hand and rolling over. It's incredible. Can't believe it.
Yeah, we could all hear it during COVID when you sat in empty grounds and every challenge in the Premier League anyway. Yeah.
You won't embarrass yourself, but it's just the modern game, as it were. Like if you're a tough tackling midfielder now or a big centre half that would try and dominate people, you've no place in football now, have you? It's crazy. I don't like it, I'll be honest with you. I just hate that part of the game because I do a lot of coaching with kids and I see the kids copying the heroes rolling round and you don't know if they're injured, if they're not, it's crazy. Crazy. Game's changed so much.
So you mentioned Brian Horton, Pers. I mean, without jumping too far ahead, he was obviously a big influence on your career, but he nearly took you. You mentioned Man City. He nearly took you there, didn't he? Mid-90s.
He did, yeah. When I was at Celtic, and then he ended up signing me for Huddersfield. when I went to Barnsley after Celtic. But yeah, Brian Horton, he was a winner, you know, and I'm not being funny. When you're talking about young lads, you know, he was a gaffer. We when he walked in the room, we jumped. I'm not being funny. That's how it was, you know. Honestly, it was, but it did us all good. Do you know what I mean? He was, what's the word I'm looking for? Aggressive. You know, he'd just the opposite of what it's like nowadays. But he was a winner, and I owe him a lot, you know, because he was my first proper manager. He gave me my debut, and yeah, it'd be on your case if you weren't doing the business, you know. So a lot to thank Brian Horton for. Yeah.
Can you remember what happened with the City thing? Was that?
Yeah, what happened were I've been at Celtic. You know, obviously I've gone to Middlesbrough. We got promotion to Premier League. Celtic came in for me that summer, so I had a choice that summer whether to come down and play in the Premier League with Middlesbrough, or sign for Celtic. And I went up there, and there were no Liam Brady was manager, Charlie Nicholas, Frank McAvenny, John Collins. It's a massive. So I signed for him, but I've been up there. I scored 20 goals. Blah blah blah. Scored winner against Rangers. Liam Brady got sacked because we came second to a really good Rangers team that included, you know, Trevor Steven, Richard Gough, Lake. They were a good side, you know, they were a really good side. So Lou McCorry came in, didn't fancy me. It happens, you know. And Viv Anderson was manager of Barnsley at the time, and he got in touch with me and he came to meet me. Celtic gave him permission to come and speak to me, and he persuaded me to sign for Barnsley. I mean, like, very persuasive was Viv. And 2 weeks after I signed for him, he left and took the Middlesbrough job with Brian Robson. So it was like, wow, you know what I mean? Although Barnsley had a good team, we were like top 6 championship, but it was just, he persuaded me and then left, you know what I mean? So, but Brian Horton was sorry, going back to your original, Brian Horton was manager of Man City at the time, and they were in the championship, and he made an inquiry about me, you know, to Celtic, and it just never came about. I think he signed somebody else, you know, but it was a nearly, and that'd have been a great move. I mean, who won't, you know, I mean, Man City, I mean, they're a massive club, aren't
they? Exactly, were then, weren't they? Never mind now. You know?
Yeah.
Just going back to the Celtic thing. So you had a fairly short spell with Middlesbrough, and then you go to Celtic, and as you say, just mentioning those names of the players who were around at that time, it was a completely different kind of Scottish football to what we see now, wasn't it? The players who come, England internationals playing for Rangers and Celtic, and you know, top players, but. Yeah. Obviously, the first thing anyone would think of when they sign for one of those two clubs is what is an Old Firm derby going to be like? So, what was it like?
I mean, it was crazy because back then you get 60,000, I think 58,000, but there'd be 30,000 Celtic and 28,000 Rangers. You know, now they sort of don't let many fans travel or whatever. It was just crazy. It was the only game that when I was walking out at Celtic, where I couldn't hear my teammates. You know, when you put your fingers in and out your ears, you know, and I couldn't hear. So when we were speaking to each other, just couldn't hear anything. It was just a crowd. But it were just, I mean, like, players were kicking lumps out of each other. It was just crazy, you know, but we got a couple of wins. We won at Ibrox and we won at Celtic Park, managed to get winner. And, you know, just incredible. They're just so must-win games. It's massive up there, you know. I mean, obviously, we know that there's only 2 teams up there, you know. But, I mean, I ended up playing European football. We got to quarterfinals at UEFA Cup. Dortmund knocked us out, you know. So to get to play, you know, all right, people can turn around and say I didn't play in the Premier League, but I played in Europe for Celtic, you know. And I was looking at something not long ago, and it was it said low league striker Andy Payton. I think I scored 170 goals at Championship, as well as the Scottish Premier, and about 50 odd in League One. So I thought, bloody hell, if I'm a low league striker at Championship, I'll take that. So I do believe that if I would have gone up to Premier League, I would have scored goals, because I always did do, you know.
I always said that.
You know, I just believe that because you never stop getting into them areas. You know what I mean? And I feel as though I would have done, but that's the only regret, really. The fact that I didn't. I've no regrets about joining Celtic because they're amazing. But what I'm saying is, at Middlesbrough, I played a part in them. You know, getting promotion to the Premier League. You know, but never actually stepped up and played in it. You know.
So you walk on water if you get the winner in the Old Firm, though, don't you, up there? Still, there's that famous picture of you with the blood pouring from your head, isn't there, and all sorts. And
yeah, I mean, I got 5 stitches there. I got elbowed off. I don't know who it were, Richard Goff, I think. And then I went off 2 minutes, got it stitched, and straight back on. You know, I mean, could you imagine that now? I mean, God, they'd be, I don't know what would happen. They'd be ringing paramedics, wouldn't they?
Concussion protocol.
But it was such a magical club, you know, and like I say, the European nights were just great. So I had massive, you know, really, really fantastic times up there. Really enjoyed it. Brilliant club.
I say it was the place to be. I mean, it's just after the English clubs had come back in, but for that 5-6 year period, that's like Simon was saying, all the top English players were going to Scotland, weren't they, just to play European football, basically. But,
of course,
they retained a lot of those players, haven't they? But,
yeah, I mean, that dressing room, like I say, I mean, Gary Gillespie, Tony Mowbray, Charlie Nicholas, John Collins, Frank McAvenny. I could keep going, you know, and every single player were an international. We signed Stuart Slater. I think, obviously, there were only me who weren't an international, I think. Obviously, because I were English, I think if I'd have had any Scottish or Irish blood in me, I'd have got some caps. You know, I'm sure I would have done. You know, just for the fact that I were scoring goals for Celtic. You know, but I loved my time up there. It was superb.
John Collins, I think he's one of those players who never quite gets the credit he deserves. I thought he was a beautiful player on the ball, John Collins.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I'll be honest with you. So when I tell this story. So when I went up there, my first day at training, I thought, well, I'll get in nice and early. And I got in about 9 o'clock, and John Collins was already in the gym. He doing parallel bar dips. And I'm not being funny, he didn't have a 6-pack, he had a 10-pack. He was unbelievable. One of the fittest lads I've ever seen, but dedicated. Absolutely. He didn't have an ounce of fat on him. He was just an athlete, you know. And I was watching someone like him putting the hours in and just thinking, like, I need to do this, you know what I mean? So it did rub off. You start trying to do what they do, you know, they do. But it was, it was an incredibly gifted player as well. He played at World Cups and all sorts. But I think he went to, where did he go? It was
Monaco, wasn't it?
Monaco, yeah, he went to play for Monaco. Great lad as well, you know. But yeah, brilliant player. And obviously Charlie Nick, you know, I mean, and Frank McAvenny. Frank had been, with Cotty at West Ham, and Charlie Nicholas had scored a couple of goals in cup finals for Arsenal. They're brilliant players, you know. So just to learn off them, because I was only about 23, you know, was amazing, really, you know.
Is Jerry Craney there as well?
Jerry. So Jerry, I forgot to mention Jerry. Well, Jerry were younger than me. What a player. Probably one of the best finishers that I've ever seen. Naturally, you know, gifted. He were about 19. He were a big lad, and he were holding his own. He were capped Scottish international. Brilliant finisher. I forgot about Jerry. I mean,
your path just missed it, Burnley. It's obviously come in on loan earlier that season before.
I know, I know I had a really good partnership with Cookie, but I'd already played with Jerry up at Celtic, you know, and I think he scored about 10 goals for Burnley in about 10 games or something, you know. So I think we'd have hit it off. But he was a great player, really good, great lad as well.
So obviously Barnsley. I mean, it was Championship football, but was it a bit of a come down? I mean, it must be tough to go with. You know, you played in front of 60,000 every other week.
I'll be honest with you, it felt that way after a bit because Barnsley were having a stand built behind the nets, and we were getting about 5,000 crowds. And I remember a couple of times thinking, "Wow, you know." Somebody once said to me, "How have you left Celtic for them?" But we had like Neil Redfern, Andy, you know, Brendan O'Connor. We're a good team. And, you know, it was just a case of getting my head down and just trying to score as many goals as possible. But it did feel as though I took a step backwards, obviously. But I always look at it, you know, whichever way. And that's not knocking Barnsley because, like I say, they're a good team. I feel as though it was part of me coming back to Burnley, you know, because it was all, you know, I feel as though, I know I've said it before, I felt as though it were fate. But, you know, the Barnsley, Huddersfield, and then Burnley, you know. So I'll never knock it. I mean, I scored about, well, I'm a striker. I know how many goals I scored. I scored 47 goals for Barnsley. If I don't know, then who is going to know, you know? But so I did all right there, you know. But what a great set of lads as well, and some really good players, you know.
I say everyone remembers the one. Yeah, every Burnley fan remembers the one goal you scored against them, don't they?
I know. I scored at Barnsley as well. Yeah, we won 2-0, didn't we? I got a header from a corner, but didn't celebrate. I didn't celebrate at Turf, obviously, because you know why, out of respect and everything else. And I don't think it'd have gone down too well if I'd have gone running round. You know what I mean? Understatement of the year. But yeah.
Sorry, you see Richarlison at the weekend, and he scores 2 against Everton, and he sort of half thought about it, didn't he? And then,
yeah, I mean, fair play to him because he did. You know, I mean, there'd have been a lot gunning for him, wouldn't there? You know, but I mean, Burnley had only just gone up in '94.
Yeah,
and there were about 18,000 on, so I knew, you know, my dad were on and my brother, and you know, and I mean, I couldn't miss it. It was a free header from the corner, I think, from about 6 yards, and. We ended up winning the game 1-0, but no, I'll be honest with you, part of me inside, because I've been released as a kid, was sort of like, yeah, you know, have some of that sort of thing. But yeah, I made the wise decision, and because I think Burnley fans always respected me for that, you know, because even when I scored at Barnsley, I didn't celebrate as well, because they remember things like that. And but I never knew. I'll be honest with you, I never thought that I'd ever. You know, I thought Burnley, I'd never get to play for Burnley, you know, especially when they sort of went back down to League One, you know.
So did that, I mean, I know you played and scored against Blackburn, I think. Was that sort of, you know, from a Burnley fan's point of view, that must be the the ultimate thing, really, is it? What's that, scoring against Blackburn?
Yeah, I mean, I scored 4 times against Blackburn in my career, you know, for Hull City and Middlesbrough and what have you, but, you know, we played them. I'm not counting the second game because I came on a sub when we were 4-0 down, but we got beat 5-0. But I played in the 2-0 where, obviously, when Bowley got sent off, I'd love to have scored against him for Burnley, but unfortunately, it just didn't happen, you know. But, I mean, it would have meant a hell of a lot, you know, to me. But I still feel as though, you know, obviously getting promotion was unbelievable. You know, I mean, the time that we had, you know, from when I first signed, when we were bottom of league, in that January, and that, you know, that 2 years later we'd end up getting promotion. You know, I mean, it was amazing.
So, let's just talk a bit about,
you know.
Let's just talk a bit about how you ended up back at Burnley. Then, so you've gone from Barnsley to Huddersfield. It's gone well again. It's gone well again at Huddersfield, and then it seemed like that move at the time came out of the blue. Is that what it was like?
Yeah, it was strange because what happened was I finished top scorer. I got 19 goals. And then I had to have an hernia operation, and I was out for about 3 months. And within that 3 months, we got a new manager, and it was Peter Jackson. And what had happened was, unfortunately, the pre-season after I'd had my first season there, we played Halifax, and he was marking me, and we both got sent off. Because he punched me and I ended up punching him back. Right. And so, anyway, cut long story short, he ended up getting the job. And when he walked in the dressing room, because nobody knew who he was, and I thought, oh, my God, Anyway, he pulled me and he said, look, forget about that. Don't worry about it. It's still in my plans. First game back after I've been out for 3 months, played a reserve game. I was miles off it because I'd not played for 3 months. I got home and he rang me up. He said, yeah, we're going to let you go to Burnley. He said, if you want to go. I said, Chris Waddle's going to ring you in 10 minutes. So I was shocked because obviously, but I'll be honest with you, and I looked at league table and Burnley were bottom, League One, but it were Burnley. And I just thought, I thought about it for about 24 hours, you know, But I thought, no, I'm doing it because I've listened to my hometown club. And yeah, we never looked back really after that. But that's how it came about.
Jackson had tried for Paul Barnes, hadn't he? Had Peter Jackson
Barnes,
tried for Paul. But is that how it come? He said, can I have Barnes? And Waddle had said, what about a swap then, eh?
Yes, that's what happened. Yeah. And I mean, Barnes had done well at Burnley. I mean, he got 5 in one game, didn't he? So I knew that coming here, I were under pressure. Because I'd scored a load of goals, but it don't count. You're back to naught because I hadn't scored for Burnley, you know. So yeah, I think it were Huddersfield were quite happy with the swap. Jackson, certain managers don't fancy it. Simple as that, you know. And I think it was one of them. And I came back obviously, and I mean the rest's history, you know. I mean we managed to stay up that season under Chris Waddle, and I managed to get goals. And then obviously Stan came in and things changed and you know the rest. I mean the rest we ended up getting promotion. It was, you know, it was fantastic times, you know, for me personally and obviously for the club.
Let's just take a little commercial break for a moment. We'll be right back after this message.
Hello, this is Justin at the From the BLN podcast. I'm really sorry to be interrupting our normal service, but I have some exciting news to share about something that we've been working on for a while. I'm really very happy to declare that the official From the BLN t-shirt shop is now open for business. You can find it at shop.fromthebln.com and we'll be sharing that link where we can. It shouldn't be difficult to find us. When you get to the shop, you'll find a small but carefully curated set of original designs, including the From the BLN logo, which is the only shirt that we'll be keeping on sale indefinitely. All of the other designs are going to be on sale for a limited time only. We're not quite sure how long yet, but they will eventually all be replaced by new designs. Some of the designs nod to the club's history, while others will be, let's say, reactive to current events. One of the shirts we've got on sale right now is a tribute to Burnley's current number 17 striker, Lyle Foster. And we thought it'd be a great idea to donate all the profits from the sale of this particular shirt to the UK mental health charity Mind. We will, of course, keep you regularly updated on how much money we've raised as we pass the cash along to the charity. And it would be great, too, to see photos of you doing your mile for Lyle in one of our shirts. So please share them with us if you can. So why are we doing this now? Well, firstly, it's just good fun. We really hope you'll enjoy the designs that we've come up with. But also, sadly, a podcast like ours is not free to produce. So we're just hoping to generate a little bit of cash to help support our efforts. It'll pay for the software and web service we use to record the podcast and the hosting of the podcast on our website too. So if you buy a shirt, you'll not only be one of the best dressed in town, you'll also be helping to support us to keep on doing what we do and develop the other ideas that we've got for bigger and better things down the road. So for that, in anticipation, I thank you on behalf of myself and every member of the team. We're all very, very grateful for your support. So that's enough from me. Please go and check out the shop and spread the word. But for now, let's get back to the show.
So Andy, let's just talk about those two managers there, because, you know, they had contrasting fortunes at Burnley, really. But obviously, Chris Waddle, a huge name and great player, didn't really work out for him in management. Never managed again after Burnley. What was it like working with Waddle?
Well, I mean, I think he was a great bloke. I know I've said that a lot about everybody at the moment, but I mean, he really was. He'd been a fantastic player. I think it were a bit too low for him, the standard of players that they had at the time, the League One players. So he were like pinging balls in training, 60-yard big diags over at fullback and what have you. I think he'd come down. Obviously, we had Glenn Roeder, who was a really good coach, and had done it at top level. But I think they struggled just at that level. Mm-hmm. He played a few games at the end, and he actually did well for us. But I think he just, I think because he played at such a higher level, internationals and all that he struggled a little bit, But he had the full respect of all the players, and the fact is, what I can always say is that Chris Waddle gave me my chance to sign for Burnley. So once again, and I think he were pleased with the deal, obviously, because I managed to score some goals for him, and we managed to stay up because it were looking like I don't know what would have happened if we would have gone down. I'll be honest with you, into League Two. Yeah. But I liked him. His training were good. When I say his training were good, the reason why it were good is because we'd be off Monday and off Wednesday. It was just crazy. I remember we played my first game was Bristol Rovers away, and we got beat. I think we had a man sent off. I'm not sure. Anyway, we got back to ground. He said, "Right, we'll see you Tuesday." Went in Tuesday, had a five-a-side. We'll see you Thursday, and it were like, wow. Do you know what I mean? But that's just the way the bigger clubs tended to do that at the time. Whereas like Stan as an example. He'd have us in Sunday morning running round track, if we got beat, which he did on many occasions. Yeah. Totally, Stan was more man management, leadership, and the gaffer, whereas Chris was still a bit like a player, just totally different,
When you say he struggled a bit with the level, do you mean that like the players couldn't do the kind of things that he was used to his teammates at Spurs and England and Marseille being able to do?
Yes, I think so. Because he had lads playing who were at League One level, and I think it's tough for somebody who's played such a top level. I think so. England international, played in World Cups, to sort of drop down, to that level. And like you say, I didn't realise that he'd never managed again after Burnley. So I think that sort of tells you that he'd probably had enough. You know what I mean?
Went and played again a bit, didn't he, with Bradford? And
yeah.
But,
he went and played again after
yeah.
Burnley.
Oh, did it? Yeah. Bloody hell, forgot about that. But, because he still had the quality, but obviously was, like what happens to everybody, once you get over a certain age, it's over, But he was a great bloke.
Chris,
I really respected him, England international, and he signed me, so
yeah. I was saying you walked into a club. But let's say you came in with Burnley struggling, but that second half of the season were like playoff form, weren't it? It had to be.
Yeah.
So you've come into a team that's you're winning every other week.
I know. We just sort of. I remember obviously Cookie did really well that season, and I think we won 5 games, 1-0. So that means we kept 5 clean sheets. Not just the fact I'm scoring, but the fact that the defence are keeping clean sheets. So we pulled it out we had to do. I think we went away to Wigan and got battered.
Yeah,
4-1. It was looking like we were dead and buried. But we came back from that, and we ended up going right to the last game, Plymouth at home. And Cookie got 2, and we won the game, and a massive moment for the club, just because I think if we'd have gone down, back to the bad old days or whatever,
Yeah.
But we stayed up, and I genuinely don't think, from the promotion, 2 seasons after, I don't think the club's ever looked back.
Exactly.
I really do. Stan came in, obviously, and brought a load of new players in, and, we had a good side, didn't we?
But from a striker's perspective, what was it like? You thrive on service, and then you've got Glenn. Glenn came into the side pretty much around you signing, and you people like Paul Smith and later Paul Cook and people like that. Great service.
Yeah.
What was?
Absolutely. I had Cookie do the dog work, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
sort of thing. You get hold of it, get into feet. It was a great partnership. Glenn, I mean, the biggest problem I had with Glenn, it weren't a problem. I just never knew when he were going to cross it, because he beat 5 men. I mean, he was outstanding. Smithy left, Smithy's wand, So my job was, my job was to get on the end of stuff. And I'd scored goals throughout my career, but I knew that's what I did in football. I'd get the odd, worldie or whatever, but the majority of my goals were, 6-yard stuff, you know what I mean? And I mean, I'm in my shrine now, but that's why I got that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And, I treasure that, I've got, I made a little shrine in my conservatory. So I was on the front of 12 programmes. So they're all up on wall. Brilliant. And I've got my golden boot. I've got my couple of medals for, when we went up. And when you stop playing, like these behind, that's a Burnley one. We only ever played in that one once.
Yeah.
It's quite unique, that one. But this is all you have left when it's over. I mean, I've actually got my A license. I did my football coaching badges, so that's up at wall. But when you finish playing, the only thing you've got left is the memories. Yeah, so you've got to make the most of it,
I say you've got a DVD in your name as well, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I've got that one. Yeah. I mean, the club made that. I mean, all my goals for Burnley are on it, so it's brilliant to keep. But no, we had some really good players, and I mean, that's an individual award for a striker, but my teammates created most of them goals, obviously. But I knew what my job was. My job was to get on the end of stuff. And I look at strikers, in general now, and I don't think that hunger for goals is there. They are in certain players, but so many players now, you ask them how many goals they've got, and they don't even know. No. And back in the day, I was judged every season off every manager on how many goals I got, for my team. So,
So the one thing with your goals, and if you look at your goals, they were often the second in a 2-1 win, the one in a 1-0, the third in a 3-2, and you didn't you mentioned Paul Barnes, and he got 5 against Stockport, and he got a couple of hat-tricks here and there, but it was it might not have nicked you the winner in a tight game or something like that.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I knew. There were better strikers than me out there, more gifted or whatever. But if that ball got played into that box, I'd be at the end of it. And I made a career out of it. And like I say, to end up at Celtic and finishing top scorer, getting promotion to Middlesbrough, every club I was top scorer. The only club I weren't top scorer at was Middlesbrough. Scored 2 minutes into my debut and nearly broke my ankle. I was out for 3 months. So I only played 8 times for Middlesbrough, but I scored 3 goals. Every other club, I finished top scorer. Not every season. I finished top scorer twice at Barnsley. I finished top scorer at Huddersfield. So 3 times or 4 times at Hull City, I think. So, that was... But I knew that was my job. I weren't expecting a midfielder to finish top scorer. It had to be me,
Who do you see that in now? People like Kane and,
Absolutely. Yeah, they just never stop. They just want to keep scoring. I mean, my Georgia, who plays for Aki Stanley Ladies, her favourite player is Haaland. And people say, 50-odd goals last season. He scores goals. This season he's been out half the time and he's still top scorer. Do you know what I mean? And Georgia's top scorer for Aki Stanley Ladies, so I'm going to give her a big mention.
She's got a big date at the weekend, hasn't she?
Yeah, they're playing Darwin at the WAM. They played there a couple of times, but so she gets on the end of stuff and that, and we're very proud of her. But I mean, going back to the, just knowing what my job was, and like you say, you've already mentioned Glenn. I mean, like, what a player. You know what I mean? And the service I got, was amazing. That's why I won the Golden Boot, because of the service. But I mean, it's an individual award, isn't it? So, but it's something that, I mean, I had it in the club for 10 years on display, but I've got it, it's in my home now, and and it's, treasure it.
What was the pick of your 82? I always used to call it 82 because I think you got robbed of one at York. But 80, what was the pick of the goals?
Well, I mean, the one they played down at the Turf with the Cruyff turn, really, because it came out of nothing, and it was just one of them instinctive moments that strikers do now and again. And so I'd say that one. But I'll be honest with you, if I put it in from 1 yard, with my backside and we won 1-0, I'd be happy. Quite a lot of my goals as well, believe it or not, were headers. I scored about in the 81 for Burnley. Obviously you go through them. Our David used to go through them. He used to pick and analyse everything, And I think I scored 30 headers for Burnley. And now, I think they're going to. I won't be surprised if they do away with players edit ball. I have to get physio on every time they edit. You know what I mean?
You remember the one at Blackpool from distance?
Yes, I do. Yeah. That keeper off his line. Yeah. Cookie flicked it on. It went over his shoulder, and I'd clocked that he kept coming off his line. Yeah. And I just had a swing at it, and he went right over. And so every now and again, if somebody would call me a tapping merchant or something like that, then but goal's a goal, And the fact that I've got them all on a DVD, they're there, aren't they? So exactly. And it's a shame really, because I think certainly professional clubs should be tapping into what we know. Do you know what I mean? I'm on about coaching wise, players, and it's amazing how so many players, ex-players, should I say, like myself, who played at a high level. And I mentioned Dean Windus, he's not doing out for Hull City, and he lives in Hull. And what I mean is, you just never used. You know what I mean? And like I say, with so much to offer, it's crazy. Probably missed the boat now because of age, etc. But what you can pass on, it's crazy. Like I say,
yeah, there's quite a few clubs that have finishing coaches now, though, aren't there? The big clubs, some of them are live, or they even have. I know when Solskjaer was at Man United, he brought in a couple of different strikers. I can't remember who they were. They weren't all United players. Just to work for a week with Rashford and Martial, trying to improve the finishing.
They should do, because it's repetition. It's repetition, really. You can't. It's not something. If you keep practicing something, I've said this before. Somebody once said it to me when I was younger. Darts players and snooker players practice for 5 hours a day. 5 hours, darts players doing that. You know what I mean? So footballers, if you've got to do at least an hour a day. A big bag of balls, you've got to do just repetition. I used to do it, if I was going through a lean spell, even if I weren't, though, just smashing balls. If there's no keeper there, just into an empty net from edge of box. But, I think clubs, they have goalkeeper coaches. I think they should have striker coaches.
Well, throwing coaches.
Well, they have every kind of coach now. I've watched quite a few of the... Neil Warnock's been, something he said the other day, said they have people at football clubs now that are doing everything, aren't they? He calls them busybodies. They're just people that are just around. I shared one today, Harry Redknapp thing. He said 80% of youth team football coaches are non-playing football coaches. They've never played the game in academies. And that's why academies aren't producing anything. Blackburn have done well because they've just got, Wharton's just gone for 20-odd million. When was Burnley's last one? Can you name it? I know they got beat last night in Youth Cup. We're Premier League. Bristol City, we lost 3-0, didn't we? Yeah. You know what I mean? Who was the last one to come through Burnley's academy?
To come through properly as a Burnley player through the system. But J-Rod, Dwight McNeil came from United.
Dwight, Man U, though, he came from Man U, didn't he? But I know he started off at 16 at Burnley. But what I'm saying is, it's not many, it's not many, is there? But who's coaching them, ex-players always say stuff like this, but there's so much that you can pick into the brains of, because players have been there, done it, and seen it,
we saw it. We saw it at the weekend, Andy, with up front where, Amdouni seems to have been struggling a bit of late, and he weren't getting into the positions, weren't scoring goals, and then Fofana comes on, and he immediately
fair play to lad.
They weren't great goals, either of them, really. But he were there, weren't he? You were in the right spot.
Of course he were. And I thought his goal the goal that he made at
City.
Was it City? Was excellent. The goal, goals at the weekend. The first one, keeper's had a mare because he's come to try and punch it, but he's still there and he's headed it in. And the second one is in there. So, I mean, I thought they were, whichever way you look at it, I mean, they were good goals, But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think our top scorer's got 5. I'm not sure who it is. Is it Brownhill? Anyway, so what I'm saying is, what these lads are meant to, that's their job, getting goals. I know it's Premier League and I know this and I know that, but I just feel as though, back in the day, I was told by my manager, every club, I want 20 goals off you this season. And I don't think it's there anymore. It feels as though they're saying that, I mean, assists are a big thing. I'm looking at De Bruyne's record when City were on the other night, and he's way head and shoulders above anyone else. But, strikers are there to score goals. And, they just, I don't think they want it as much as what we used to or whatever. Maybe they're trying to walk it in now. I don't know. But when your top scorer, your top striker's got 3 goals and you've won 3 out of 23, and you're in February, people are wondering, and then people say, how do you think Burnley are doing? I never comment on Burnley because at the end of the day, as an ex-player, I just want them to do well. But if you're a striker and you're happy with 3 goals, then something wrong. I think so.
With all the teams that you played with, not just Burnley, but throughout your career, you quite often played in a 2 up front, didn't you? Because there weren't as much of the false nines and one guy on his own in front. Who would you pick if you were to pick one? It's a bit unfair. You can have 2 if you want. Who would you pick as your partner, as your strike partner?
I mean, obviously, I had some great ones up in Scotland. Charlie Nick, Frank McAvenny. I'll be honest with you, they were brilliant players and played at top level, played in World Cups and all that. Obviously, my Burnley connection, had to be Andy Cook. I nearly said Paul Cutton. Cookie was unbelievable. He worked hard. He got 20 goals one season as well. We had a good partnership and he'd get stuck in, he'd give everything. Just a great lad, So I really enjoyed playing with Andy Cook. And we were sort of opposites, and it worked. I mean, I learned off a lot of players. I were up front with Marcus Stewart at Huddersfield. They were a great player. Yeah. With Andy Liddell, Andy Rammell at Barnsley. Neil Redfern, who scored a lot of goals in midfield. Dean Windus when I was at Hull. But, I mean, I'd say Cookie, just because we clicked and we hit it off, in tough times, And Cookie went on to have a decent career as well, Yeah.
Good.
You pick different bits off, all the players if you can, that you played with. That's what I did really.
Well, see, you talk about modern football. Simon mentioned that. So many sides play with like 1 forward, or you play with like 2 wide forwards next to you. I mean, how would you got on in today's game? Do you think having to play that sort of?
I don't know because football to me nowadays. So everyone's trying to play it from the back. Everybody, the top sides are good at it. You've got sides trying to copy the top sides who can't do it. Every single week on Match of the Day or on Premier League football, there's mistakes. Really, really poor mistakes. Where the keeper's trying to take someone on and it's going it back at net. And I just feel as though they need to stop. Leave it to the ones that can do it. I think Warnock said something. He said, what's wrong with, having 2 strikers up top and playing it a bit longer and getting after it, and trying to turn the centre off, a little bit like what, everyone calls it Dyche ball, but Sean Dyche at Everton to a certain degree. Because I just feel it's like every single, you look at every single form of football. I bet youth teams are doing it, trying to play out from the back.
100%.
Like I said, when it comes off and it goes bump, 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 yeah, but how often? I just feel as though that side of the game and there's no tackling. I don't like it in games when atmosphere at the ground, when you can hear people at crowd talking because they're just knocking it around at the back. And, I don't know, the game, it's just changed so much. And I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
There has to be a place for like high-octane football. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. That's what we want. It's the players that get the crowd going. But some of the games you're watching, and and they just pass. The keeper having more touches than the striker. I mean, it's beyond belief. That never would have happened in football. You won't even want your keeper kicking the ball. You know what I mean? And I think it'll turn back. I don't think this will carry on forever. But every man and his dog is trying to play it from the back, and it's crazy. I like to get it up there. Get one of strikers flicking it on, get somebody gambling, turn the centre off. Old school football.
Yeah.
But when I say old school, people now would say, yeah. I mean, even on the FA coaching badges now, they playing out from the back's part of it. And it's like, well, why? I don't think it. I just think you can leave it to the top sides who can do that. I just think the game's changed so much, and
there's not many can do it really well. As a,
exactly. And everyone's
City can do it. Barcelona did it. Other teams. Yeah. Other teams.
Play to your strengths. Get a big lad up front who's going to flick it on and put himself out.
Luton are like a mix, aren't they? Luton have come up with quite direct, but with Barkley and Laconga in there, they're playing a bit more, playing through teams a bit more. So fair play to them. But the big fella, I mean, he's just got a hat-trick, hasn't he, against Brighton? He's up for Premier League Player of the Month, and he's as he proved at Burnley. I mean, whether you agree it was a foul or not, he's an handful, isn't he?
He is an handful, and he's a big lad up front, and he's a target man, and they do try and get it in there, don't they? The lad who played on the left at Burnley, I was on that game, and they're whipping it in as often as they can, and I just feel as though everybody's trying to play they're trying to copy the top sides, and we've found ourselves in trouble this season. I think because of that, I'd rather us go longer and people stop saying that it's old-fashioned football. It's just effective. I mean, the last thing a centre half wants to do is getting turned. Yeah. But I mean, you look at squads now at football clubs. I mean, Burnley probably have about 80 pros. There's lads at Burnley in the under-23s who will never play for the first team, who are probably not short of being millionaires. I don't know. And certainly at clubs like Chelsea, maybe not so much Burnley, but certainly Chelsea. And it's crazy. I just, like I say, back in my day, you'd have 25, 30 players maximum. And, you'd all be battling for your places, I know the game's changed.
Yeah, you talk about the hunger at Hull to break out of that group of YTs. They're almost got too much too soon, maybe, these days, you think?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they have player liaison officers, and what I'm saying is, look, the players are incredibly looked after now, and fair play, But I don't know. I think, certainly for me, playing for Burnley, I was playing for the badge. I mean, I'm from Padiham, you know what I mean? But obviously Burnley meant a hell of a lot to me. And I feel as though there'll be so many players now who don't have that, because how could they? Because they, players that have come, done all right for a bit and disappeared, players from last season even who've done really well, who are now not at the club, I don't know. I just feel as though when there's massive squads, it takes that away,
Yeah, Andy, so, you've talked about it before, that when it came time to hang up your boots, you found it difficult to transition on your way out of the game. I mean, people are a lot more comfortable talking about these kind of things these days than they perhaps were at that time. But you seem to have come through it now pretty well. I mean, you've dealt with your demons, as it were.
Absolutely. It's hard when you come out of football. I mean, I did that every day for 21 years. Got up, went to work to do my job as a footballer. Do you know what I mean? And I was nearly 37 when I finished. And it's tough. So, I'm very, obviously I'm on the hard stuff. You know what I mean?
Andy's throwing a bottle of water. Yeah.
Bottle of water there, obviously. So, I mean, 2012, I decided, that, as you know, I went teetotal. And it's transformed my life again, because when you come out of football, it's tough. Mm-hmm. And the amount of players that have problems, So probably for 4 or 5 years, I struggled a little bit, because you can't play anymore. Everything in my life was based around going out there and scoring goals for Burnley. And when it stops, I know people say, well, you've had the brilliant time, but you think, well, what do I do now? What do I do now with my life? It's tough. But yeah, so I'm proud of the fact that I came through that, and it's a long, long time has gone now. I've done all my coaching badges since then. And I mean, I worked down at the college. I've been there for about 8 years, doing coaching football, and life's good, But it is funny because, so many, there's a large percentage of footballers that have problems. And luckily, a lot sort themselves out. And there's one or two that unfortunately don't, But, fortunately, everything's been good.
Brilliant. And you're working with like a fairly, young group of players down at Burnley College.
I mean, we do the students, girls and, lads, and I do a bit of coaching at nights, and coaching most nights, I mean, I still love the game and I'm still heavily involved in it, and because I've always been proud of the fact that I did my coaching badges. Some people say they're a waste of time and all that, but I mean, to get my A licence took me a couple of years, and, I'm really proud of that. I mean, there's only the pro licence that I haven't done, but I think it's about 15 grand, literally, and, it's job for the boys now, isn't it? But I'm glad I got a high qualification in football coaching. And like I say, I've been down at Burnley College for years, me and Jerry Harrison, coaching the students. Yeah, Jerry's down there. He's been there longer than me. And it's good, we have games every week and coach, and it's all football related. And still love it. It's great.
Brilliant. Chris, final question for you.
Yeah, just said it's been a journey, isn't it? But it's just good to see, over a decade now.
Over a decade, yeah.
So it's the best decision you ever made, really, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely, and also it's something I've stuck to, and now it don't even it's nothing. It feels, it just don't. It's not part of my life, and everything else has gone really good with it, I mean, I'm fortunate. I met Victoria 4 years ago. We now live together and we're engaged, and she's a fantastic lady who's really helped me. And I mean, my girls are all good. They're growing up now. Obviously, George is doing really well at Aki Stanley. Life's good, and I feel as though I'm very, very grateful and very lucky.
Good to hear. Best of luck to Georgia at the weekend. Anyway,
cheers for that, Chris.
Thanks, Andy. Really appreciate it. Been fantastic. Chat, that really, really good.